From Houston, Texas, from Radio Neiman PC. We have some very update that we wanted to update as soon as the news came in. Along with me is Emily Neiman, my business partner. Sorry, we are not dressed in the professional suits that lawyers are supposed to be because it's a Friday. Always the USCIS and the immigration were always giving some bad news on Friday. But Emily, that doesn't look to be bad news today.
Yeah, we definitely have some breaking news. Just about an hour ago, we received an email notification from USCIS that they've now updated their website on the STEM OPT third-party placement. So my guess is they listened to our video yesterday.
Yeah, seems to be. Thanks for all the audiences to have and nice comments and the way they interpreted the regulations in the law and updated the website without going through the proper process. I think so they now realized and they just switched it back. And Emily, can you update what is the STEM extension in the USCIS website? Now, everything else remains the same. The law is the same, the regulations are the same, but just the USCIS website has changed. And what does this actually mean for those people who are working at third-party locations and for those people who have received an RFE and H-1B? What does this mean for them?
Yeah, so on the website, the last update was on August 9th to add the unlawful presence memo issue. As of August 9th, under the employer's training obligation section, the website had said basically online or distance learning arrangements may not be used to fulfill the training obligation. The student must be working at the business, or I'm sorry, the student should not be working at the place of a client or customer. That's what it said as of August 9th, the last update.
That was yesterday, you mean to say?
Right. They updated it August 9th. Today, they changed it to remove that exact paragraph. So in the employer's training obligation section, everything is exactly the same as it was before, except they removed that one paragraph. Now, in the email notification, it's worded a little bit differently. In the email notification, it specifically says DHS is clarifying that STEM OPT participants may engage in a training experience that takes place at a site other than the employer's business,
yes,
as long as the training obligations are met and as long as there's a bona fide employer-employee relationship. So that's kind of what we talked about yesterday, was the regulation, and specifically the preamble to the regulation, talked about bona fide employer-employee relationship. It did not specify third-party
So they're
placement.
using actually what's there in the regulation right now.
Exactly,
and
at least in the preamble.
Right.
Yeah, so how the website is now seems to be in line with what the regulations say, that now we don't have that same inconsistency. We also don't have the section that says that online or distance learning arrangements are not proper, because that was completely in conflict with what was on the ICE website. The ICE website said off-site, distance, remote was permissible. So now the two agencies seem to be in agreement that third-party placement can be done as long as the employer that's providing that training opportunity has all of the available resources and is meeting all of their training obligations, and there will be a bona fide employer-employee relationship.
So what does this mean, Emily, now with the USCIS update? It's very odd. I mean, this is our lives they're playing with. And for those people who have filed who are working at third-party STEM extension, are they completely safe, or they still need to comply with any of the other requirements that the regulations are, both websites are saying?
Yeah, so this does not mean that every third-party placement is permissible. By far, it's nowhere close to that. It's very specific about what obligations have to be met. You obviously have to have the training plan. You've got to be complying with the training plan. Whatever you said in the training plan has to actually be happening, and the training has to be provided by another employee of the same company, not the customer location, not the client location.
So the training part cannot be delegated to the end client.
Exactly.
The training has to be still done by the employer, but is it required that the person who's training is actually at the end client location, or can that be at remote location?
That's where, honestly, it's a little bit unclear because, let's find the exact wording here.
They did not specifically set that the trainer has to be at the site location, though. They said that the end client cannot be delegated the duties of the training. That's the reading that I had.
Well, they do say, quoting here, the student's practical training experience must be provided by the employer's own trained or supervisory personnel at the employer's own place of business or work site. So that to me makes it sound like the trainer could potentially be at the employer's place of business and the trainee
can be at
could be
I mean,
at
with
the
the
third-party
technology,
site.
I mean, they're kind of acknowledging the technology right now. People can be controlling things from remotely. I mean, there are people sending the satellites to Mars, and there are so many satellites roaming around, and there are drones flying around killing people, controlled from Langley, Virginia. So they're saying that right now. I take their stand as that the trainer could be at a different location than the location where the end client location is.
Yeah, they specifically took that paragraph out. That was very clear on that before, where it said that the online or distance learning arrangements may not be used. It said that the employer may not fulfill its training obligation by having the student make periodic phone calls or periodic emails. It's not enough to do the remote training. That's what it used to say. That paragraph is
has
completely
been taken
removed.
off.
So now the requirement is that you've got to meet the training plan obligations and be a bona fide employer-employee relationship. Now that goes back to what is a bona fide employer-employee relationship, because again, that's not defined in the STEM OPT regulation.
But it's there in most of the other USCIS thing with regards to the H-1B, where what is a bona fide employer and employee relationship.
Right.
Now,
so
for the employees who have the RFEs, what do you think so, based on this USCIS website, what do you think so is going to happen with the RF? Because they already raised the RFE asking the maintenance of status if the person is working at third-party site. They cited their website language in there. Mm-hmm. What do you think so right now is going to happen with the RFEs? They're going to be lenient on it, or do we still need to document that the person is working at the employer location?
Yeah, you still have to prove that there's the bona fide employer-employee relationship and you are meeting all of the training plan obligations. So this doesn't make the RFE go away on the STEM issue. It just opens the door for remote or distance training to occur. So I think that the types of documents that they request in these RFEs is still going to stay the same. They were asking before, they want an explanation why the beneficiary is working at a different location, how the employer is providing the appropriate training, who is going to be doing the supervising and training, provide the 983 form, and then you have to provide documentation of the training program, such as training materials, hours, evaluations, and the like. So I think that all remains the same, because all of that goes to proving bona fide employer-employee relationship and that the training obligations are met. So just because of this website change does not make it any easier to respond to these RFEs, but at least it gives us the option to respond. Whereas 24 hours ago, we were saying...
That was 16 hours ago.
Yeah, there's no way to answer this RFE. Best thing to do is convert to consular processing. And we've done that with cases in our firm.
We have done for a lot of those people. So for those people that we are going to respond for the RFEs, is it advisable to go for consular processing or just respond to the RFE?
Well, I think that there are many RFEs that have other issues that would still lead us to the decision to consular process, especially if there's issues related to CPT in the same RFE. But if the RFE is solely based on this STEM third-party placement, then I think that it should be relatively safe to respond to it as long as you can truly document everything. So don't skimp on your RFE response on this
just
issue.
because the USCIS website updated, you still need to respond to the STEM extension. So this one, what we said 16 hours ago, that at 5 o'clock yesterday evening, we said that we are recommending for the consular processing. In other words, we are taking back right now. Is that right, Emily?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, if it's a STEM extension, we would take back on what we said 15 hours ago and what we are telling based on the USCIS website. Emily, do you think the USCIS is going to stick with what it is, or are they going to change it back again? Will that be a problem?
I think my hope is that they've learned their lesson as to how these changes have to be made. I would say that this issue is not 100% settled. In the regulatory agenda, we already know that the entire OPT program is up for some regulatory changes. We're supposed to see those proposals this fall. So I think that we will see this issue again. The somewhat good thing is when we do, we'll actually have the opportunity to comment on it and give our input so that hopefully the final result will be beneficial to everyone. Rather than just a sneaky website update with no effective date, no guidance on what to do if you're already in that situation. So hopefully this will at least be settled for now until we actually have regulations that change.
Vijay has this question, Emily, in the live is, what is a bona fide employer-employee relationship? How do the employer needs to document a bona fide employer-employee relationship?
Well, we have, back in 2008, this was very clearly defined by USCIS in the Neufeld memo. They give you a list of factors on how USCIS will make the determination of whether there's a bona fide employer-employee relationship. The essence is the right to control. So the employer must be able to establish that it has the right to control over when, where, and how the employee performs the job. Now they give you 11 factors that they're going to look at to make that determination. Number one, does the employer supervise the employee? And if so, is it off-site or on-site? If the supervision is off-site, how is that supervision being maintained? For example, are there weekly calls, reporting back to the main office routinely? Are there site visits by the employer? Number three, does the employer have the right to control the work of the beneficiary, the employee, on a day-to-day basis? Does the employer provide the tools or instrumentalities needed to do the job? Does the employer hire, pay, and have the ability to fire the worker? Does the employer evaluate the work product? Example, do they do performance reviews? Does the employer claim the employee for tax purposes? Does the employer provide benefits? Does the employee use any proprietary information of the employer to perform that job? I think
so Emily, are you telling that all these 11 requirements have to be met, or is it going to be a totality of the circumstances?
It's a totality of the circumstances.
And can you explain that? What does it mean?
So basically, these are 11 factors that are going to be weighed, and it's flexible on how they're going to weigh them. So if you have really strong documentation of some, maybe not documentation of others, that doesn't mean that you have not established the right to control. It allows you to make the argument based on any of these 11 factors. The more you can show, the better. Obviously, that makes a stronger argument, but they really have to look at the nature of the employer's business and the type of work that the person is doing. And I think especially in IT, it's quite common for remote communications to be done and work to be done remotely, so they should be taking that into consideration when they're determining whether some of these consulting arrangements qualify.
Sarjit has this question, Emily. As you know that any changes in the employment has to be reported to the DSO. does a performance evaluation that has raised the salary $500 per year, does he need to report that to the DSO, and any amendment need to be done in the 983?
Well, the requirement for the 983 is a material change. That means a new one needs to come in. So maybe $500 a year is probably not a material change, but you should speak with your attorney to determine whether that should be necessary. Trying to limit our questions here to only STEM OPT at third-party placement.
We're going to have another presentation for CPT at a later time. This is just for the news that we have received on it. Emily, when you file a 983 with the DSO, is that the end of it, or do you need to make the periodical updates on the 983 and submit it? As you know that you need to do the evaluation, performance evaluation. After the performance evaluation, do we need to submit it to the DSO or keep it for your records only?
Well, there's the self-evaluation has to be done at the 12-month and 24-month mark. That has to be turned into the DSO. But a performance evaluation done by an employer at any time throughout the STEM OPT does not have to be turned into anyone, but that can be good documentation to submit in an RFE to prove the requisite right to control.
Right to control. And this 12 months and 24 months evaluation, self-evaluation has to be done if your students are on the STEM extension third party, STEM extension, irrespective whether it's a third party or not. You need to get those things done because the DHS might take strict action on you if you don't do that.
Yeah, and there are also the 6-month kind of check-ins, the updates that students are supposed to do with their DSOs. If you miss one of those, you could be kicked out of the SEVIS system. So make sure that you are fulfilling all of your obligations as a student during the training plan period of the 24-month STEM extension, and the employer has to be sure they're complying with all of the requirements.
Is there any minimum pay required for the OPT STEM extension period for the salary?
Yeah, it has to be commensurate with whatever that employer would pay a U.S. worker to do the same work. So absolutely there is a minimum.
Can changing the location, does he needs to update the 983 form and accept? Okay.
Yeah, and that's also reiterated in this website update. They make it very clear that the student has to update their work location address anytime it changes to allow for a site visit to occur. So one of the main reasons why USCIS previously updated their website was they claimed that ICE could not always visit these client locations and therefore were not going to allow third-party placement. Now they've walked that back and are allowing the third-party placement in certain circumstances, but you've got to have the information updated with your school in the 983 so that the site visit can be done at the proper location.
Amit has a question of the day, Emily. He says, well, the USCIS updated the website. Does it mean that is there any waiting period? Is it going to be implemented immediately? How does the process work? Because he's in a dire situation, he can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, with this website update, it came today. It's effective today. This one does not have a future effective date. So officially today, if you are maintaining the training obligations properly and following all of the requirements for STEM OPT, you can work at the third-party site.
Nasmeen from Florida has this question, Emily, is that some parts of the websites are not fully updated at this point of time in the USCIS. Do you expect that that's going to be a problem? Because in one part of the website it's said that if you're working at third-party site location, it's still restriction is there. That's what my reading is, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I think there's only one website where this information is on USCIS. But certainly if they raise the issue, just print out the website that does have the right information.
And then they also send the notification email indicating that they are going to implement the policy quite differently what they have been doing before. So that's kind of good news for a lot of people at this point of time.
Now, Dinesh has a really good question. Since we talked so much about the August 9th memo and potential unlawful presence for a status violation because you're working at a STEM OPT site.
Yes, we did.
So now, if I am still working at a client site and I worked there while the website was the other way, is that going to be a violation?
If you satisfy the other requirement, I think so you're pretty safe at this point of time. I would say that you would be fine with August 9th violation if you're working at third-party site and the employer maintains the control over you and employer-employee relationship is established. You working at the third-party site per se, I mean, by default, does not look like you are violating the legal status. Now that might be a bit contrary to what we have said on August 9th. That might be quite contrary to what we have said yesterday. That might be quite contrary to what we have been saying all along, that we doubted that you might be in trouble. But right now, we don't see that you would be in trouble unless there is something else that we don't know about your things.
That seems to be most of the questions specifically on the STEM OPT change regarding to third-party placement. So just to reiterate, the website that was updated earlier this year to say no third-party placement has been changed as of 11 o'clock this morning to now say completely removes that paragraph. So now third-party placement is permissible. Not for every situation, only for those companies that can provide all of the required training obligations and maintain a valid, bona fide employer-employee relationship, meaning the employer continues to have the right to control how the person does the job, when they do the job, where they do the job, what job duties they're going to do, and that list of 11 factors. And if you want to review those 11 factors and see them where they're at, you can go to the USCIS website and look for the January 8th, 2010 policy memorandum on determining employer-employee relationship for H-1B petitions.
Stay tuned to Radio Newman PC's live telecast and also the YouTubes. Also, don't forget that any update that comes up, Emily updates it on immigrationgirl.com. You can also check in rnlawgroup.com. And if you have any specific questions that you need to address, you can make an appointment with Emily, me, or any of our colleagues in our office. We would like you to continue tuning, and we will update you if there are any development that keeps coming. We want to be the direct source of information for you for any business immigration related things. This way, this Facebook, YouTube, or any other things that you see, we want to communicate directly to the clients rather than going to the media, because now the digital haze has changed. You have an access directly to go to the direct information source.
So thanks for joining us today, and we'll be back on Tuesday at 5 o'clock Central Time. If you have a question that we didn't get to, you can always set up an appointment for a consultation with any of our attorneys at rnlawgroup.com. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.